tick as a case study. But today we want to look at endoparasite. Remember I told you that the word endo means inside. So the parasite that affects the host inside the body is called an endoparasite. So we want to look at the case study, the tapeworm. We all know the tapeworm. The tapeworm is an endoparasite. It has a very long body, long and flat body, and it's made up of the head, the tail, and so it's made up of the head, it's made up of the neck, and the tail. So these are the three parts that makes up the earthworm, or the tapeworm, sorry. They belong to the group. Earthworm belongs to a group that is known as Platyhelminth. I guess you still remember your first term work. The Platyhelminths. What are the characteristics? They are flatworm with segmented bodies. This group of organisms mostly affect pigs as their primary hosts. They affect cattle as their primary host, and they even affect man as a secondary host. So we are not going to look at the biology of this. We'll move straight to the life cycle. Now, if you look at a typical example of a tapeworm, it looks like this. The tapeworm has a rosette on top of the head, and that rosette is made up of some hooks. It has hooks all over, just as I'm drawing now. Then apart from the hook, it has a sucker by the side. This is the sucker. On this other side, there's another sucker. Then that sucker leads to the neck region, and this neck region is where we call the proglottis. So this is a typical example of how the head of a tapeworm is. Now on this part of it, it has a mouth part. And that mouth part is simply known as sucker. Now let me label it. Here we have the rostrums. Here we have the rostrums. Then on this rostrum, you can see a sharp mouth that is called the hook. It uses this hook to anchor on the intestines of the host. When it anchors on the intestines of the host, no matter the movement in the body, it cannot be moved. It is stationary, it's just there. And when it discovers that it has established a tentacle on the body of the host, it will now use this part of the body, this is the sucker, and begin to suck blood. So this is the head of the tapeworm, and this is the neck region. This neck region is made of what we call the proglottis. So this is what we call a tapeworm. And we are concentrating on the head. Because it's through the head that this organism is referred to as a parasite. From this life cycle, our explanation will be very simple. So I just want you to follow me the way I go, so that you can really understand the biology of the tapeworm. This is just a little sketch to drive home a point, so that you know that this organism dwells with us. If you have a poor hygiene, then indirectly you are calling this organism into your body. Because when you eat, especially pork meat that is poorly cooked, that will result in the intake of this organism into your system. Now this is the summary of the tapeworm. Now what this worm does is that this is where the egg is laid. The egg is laid on grasses. It can be laid in dirty areas. Don't forget that pig is one of the major hosts of this animal. And we know that pigs always dwell in an unkept place. So the eggs are here. So when this animal gets in to feed in this area, they ingest the egg. This is the egg. When the egg is ingested means they swallow the egg. As the egg gets into the system, it hatches. This is the hatch egg inside the system. So when it hatches, it will move down to the intestines of the pig. From the intestines, it will go to the muscles. So there in the muscles, when man now decides to eat pork meat that is poorly cooked, the egg or the larvae inside the meat will now enter into man. When it enters man, it will migrate into the intestine, the small intestine. It will get hooked there until it hatches into adult. When it comes to adult, the adult will now produce this egg we showed here. It will produce this inside the intestine of man. It will produce the hook, use the hook to hold onto the intestine, and with the help of the sucker, it will start sucking. And when man go to toilet and defecate, those deficits will contain the eggs of this pig, the eggs of this tapeworm. And when pig get to that place and eat it, you see that the cycle will continue. Now let this be here. Let me give you some theoretical aspects. They will use that to back up that explanation. Endoparasites. Now I want to give you the breakdown concerning the life cycle we drew in our last class. Now don't forget that tapeworms are hermaphrodites. What do I mean by hermaphrodite? That means a single tapeworm possesses male and female reproductive organ. So a single one possesses a male and a reproductive organ. That makes them hermaphrodites. When mature proboscis falls off the body of the adult tapeworm, the proboscis is the tail region. When it comes out, it passes out of the feces of man. So the proboscis will fall out, but the head, remember the head I drew in the last class, the head will still be there. The proboscis is this part of the headworm. This part, the tail region, will cut off. When it cuts off, it passes out of the feces of man. That's when you get to toilet, it passes out. And for those people that do not have a good toilet system, that defecate in the bush, you see that the pigs pick it up during feeding. They get to dirty areas like that, they eat, and as they are eating those mud, they end up picking the feces. As they pick the feces of man, alongside they have ingested the proboscis of the tapeworm. When they inhale that, it eventually gets into the intestines. It gets into their intestines, and from their intestines, it will move to their bloodstream. So it enters the pig, gets to the intestines, moves to the bloodstream. From the bloodstream, it gets to the muzzle or the heart of the pig. When it gets to the heart, the embryo forms cysts and remain inside. So they get to the heart, they form a protective coverage inside the heart. Just as we have in that diagram, they form a protective coverage inside the heart and remain there. When pork containing this cyst is eaten raw, you know, man, we love eating meat, like the pork meat from pig. When you eat that meat raw, or you did not cook it well, poorly cooked, you wanted to cook it half done, the heat could not kill the cyst, then it's eaten by you. What will happen? The digestive system or the digestive enzyme in man will cause the cyst to break open. So when you take this cyst inside your body, your digestive enzymes will cause them to open. When they open, they do what? They hatch into young tapeworms, which will continue the cycle. As they hatch into young tapeworms, the tapeworm will begin to invest, to destroy, and to be sucking blood. Abdominal pains. When you have this worm much in your body, it causes abdominal pains. Always you'll be having stomach pains. Know that you have a lot of tapeworms in you. Another one is anemia. Because the tapeworm is much in the system, what they do is suck blood. And when they suck blood, it leads to an anemic situation. And don't forget that anemia is simply the loss of blood. And when blood is emptied in your body, or when blood is insufficient in your body, it will result into weakness of the body. And finally, it causes indigestion. Indigestion and vomiting. So when you see a child that is always vomiting, take that child to the hospital for proper diagnosis. Let's quickly look at control. The very first and important way tapeworm can be controlled is by proper hygiene. So when you maintain good hygiene, you keep your surroundings clean. Wherever your animals are kept, you keep them clean. You control this. Another one is cook your meat. Cook your meat, especially pork, properly. Do not say, I want to eat half done. Cook it properly, because when you cook it properly, you kill or destroy all the cysts. And lastly, treat infected person. Treat infected person by using deworming drugs. Please, self-medication is not needed here. When you have these symptoms of abdominal pain, vomiting, just see a doctor. The doctor will ask you to go for a test. Then in the test, if it is tapeworm infection, you'll be given deworming drugs. So when you take these deworming drugs, the drug will help to expel this worm from your system. I want you to go through this lesson once again. Go through it over and over. If you have any problem, make sure you see us at the site. I will always be there on net to attend to your problems. In our next class, I'm going to give you something to do. But for now, I want you to read up the parasites of farm animals. I've given you that of tapeworm. I want you to read the other worms like the hookworm. Read tick. Okay, I've given you tick. You can read lice. Try to see their life cycle. See how they can be controlled. See how you can prevent this. And I will meet you on our platform. Have a nice day.